Hey everybody, welcome for joining the Gay Sports Fanatic. This week's show is focused on college football week 6. Can't believe it's week 6. Depresses me. We're already this far into the season, but things are only going to get better from here on out. By the way, I want to mention something about this SEC flag back here. Don't be thinking that I'm just covering the SEC. I just threw this up for something different. So this background's going to change. So if you're from the Big Ten, the ACC, Notre Dame, or the Big 12, don't panic. I just put this up for this week. So what we're going to cover on this show is the gay sports fanatic, took a road trip last week to a college football game in Jerry World in Dallas. So I'm going to give you a little report on that. Also, I'm going to look at this Ryan Williams, this phenom Ryan Williams from Alabama. Kid's incredible. Then we're going to look at the top 4 teams, my top 4 teams right now after 5 weeks. And then we're going to look at 4 teams on the rise that I see as really strong, if not really, really solid contenders to be in the playoff. Then, last but not least, I'll do 7 predictions. And the predictions I'm going to do this week, just so you know, are Michigan and Washington. I'm going to do Iowa and Ohio State. I'm going to do Tennessee and Arkansas. I'm going to do Missouri and Texas A&M. We're going to move to the Big 12 for West Virginia at Oklahoma State. We're going to do Rutgers at Nebraska, and then Alabama at Vanderbilt. So those will be the picks for this week, and they'll come. Stay tuned; they'll come later. So first, the Gay Sports Fanatic here went to Jerry World, and I went to the Texas A&M Arkansas football game. It was a good game. And I sat in the Texas A&M section, me and this buddy of mine. So we just got talking to everybody around me, and they're all Aggies, of course, but all Dallas Cowboy fans too. I want to throw that in. But we just got talking a lot of football, and these guys were all pretty young. And I told them offhand that I do this weekly podcast here that I just kind of do in my off time, and they were like, "Well, what's the name of it?" And I told them, and it's a great thing. I mean, not one of them. Well, a couple of them did a couple double takes, like, what, a gay sports fanatic. They just kind of couldn't put those 2 things together. But I did explain to them it's all sports, some entertainment, some like movie reviews, things like that. But it's all mostly sports. So anyway, they said they might be watching, they might tune in. So if you guys are tuning into this, hey, it was fun hanging out with you. So while I was in Dallas after the Arkansas Texas A&M game, which is a 2:30 game, it ended around 6ish or so. So by the time we got out of there, went to dinner, and I had my eyes on my phone on the Alabama Georgia game and the Illinois Penn State game. So I was really focusing on those 2 games. And clearly, the Alabama game, I just kind of wrote off. Alabama jumped out to a huge lead, and I thought, that's over. So then we went to this bar. It's called the Roundup. I hope I get in trouble for saying that, but it's a gay bar, kind of a gay bar in Dallas. It has all kinds of people. You could take your mother there. In fact, I think a few people did take their mother there that night. But what the important thing is that they had on every TV the Alabama Georgia game on every television. So I walk in, and it's 28, I think, to 15, and Georgia's driving, and I'm like, "What? Wait a minute! This is worth watching here." So Georgia, as you probably know, comes storming back, takes the lead. And then there's a play. They take the lead, not for long. Right off the bat from the 25-yard line, Alabama throws a 75-yard touchdown pass to 17-year-old Ryan Williams. Okay, when I was 17, I was in a Catholic high school. I think I was still blowing spitballs at the cheerleaders. I don't know. I certainly wasn't on national television catching 75-yard game-winning runs. The move that this kid made, if you guys saw it, and when I get more sophisticated with this thing, I'll be able to plug in the video, but I think you all saw it. Did you see them? He got the ball, kind of stopped, let the 2 defenders run by him, twisted, went around him, and then headed for the promised land. He headed for that end zone. This kid, what's this kid going to do in the future? I mean, it's amazing. So give him the game ball. Give Georgia a lot of credit for fighting their way back. A lot of teams would have given up and just said, all right, we lost. This is an L on the road in the SEC. It's going to happen. They didn't do that. They had grit. They fought back. As part of a great motto I believe in living by, and is the great Winston Churchill, who gave a commencement address in Missouri in the 1940s. I believe he'd been kicked out as the Prime Minister of Britain, but he was giving this commencement address. He got up, and all he said was to this whole bunch of students waiting to hear a big speech, he said, "Never give up, never give up. And if you didn't hear me the first two times, never give up." So Georgia and Alabama, neither one of you ever gave up, particularly Georgia. So Georgia comes back. Alabama gets a 75-yard play, and Alabama didn't give up either. A lot of teams that lose a huge lead like that, they just fold. And Alabama did not do that. And thanks to this Ryan Williams, it was a great throw, but this Ryan Williams move took it to the house. So kudos to this Ryan Williams kid. Kudos to the Tide, and also kudos to Georgia for mounting this comeback, because they deserve a lot of credit. I know they got lost, but they deserve a lot of credit. So that was my Dallas trip. The next day I got out of town. So now I'm going to move into talking about who I think after the first 5 weeks are the top four teams, and then I'm going to talk about four teams that I think are rising, or in some cases you may think have already risen. But so let's start with my top four. To me, the number one team in the nation still has to be Texas. I know that's pretty much across the board consensus. I agree with it. Texas has shown no flaws at all. Number two, I'm going to take Alabama. After that game where they gritted it out and beat Georgia after that big comeback, I got to go Alabama number two. Number three, Tennessee. Another team, the Volunteers. I just don't see any weakness yet in them at all. In fact, this was a team that I said before the season was going to live up, was going to really be a surprise and exceed any hype they had. So far, they've proven me right. So Tennessee number three. Then I have Ohio State number four. They really haven't played anyone, but they can only beat who they play, and it is Ohio State. So stay tuned. We're going to find out a little more about Ohio State, certainly later on here. The four teams, and I think this gets interesting, four teams that are rising that I think have a better than a 50% shot, some much higher, to be in the college football playoff. First, out of Ames, Iowa, is the Iowa State Cyclones. Now, I bet a lot of people outside of Iowa are not paying attention to the Cyclones. Let me tell you, you should. Iowa State has never, I believe, my Iowa State buddies, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't believe Iowa State has ever had a 10-win season. They've been playing football for 120 years. I don't think they've ever have. Boy, they look headed for it this year to me. They also have never won their conference. One of the very few schools that has never won a conference title in football. Iowa State may well do that too. Their schedule is pretty easy. Let's just be blunt here. It's not hard. They do in November go to Utah. That's going to be the big game. I think win or lose, they play in the Big 12 title, probably against Utah again. I don't know, maybe Colorado, but uh, I see Iowa State in the Big 12 title game kind of no matter what. So keep your eye on the Cyclones and don't be surprised if they're one of the four top seeds. Next, Notre Dame. After the Northern Illinois loss, they were written off. They got a big win last Saturday against a good Louisville team. This Notre Dame team, don't sleep on them. Their schedule as well is not that hard. In fact, the big game they have left is at USC. So they're sitting pretty good to be in the playoff. Next is Clemson. Once again, early loss. They got drilled by Georgia. Clemson has played really well since then. So Clemson could win out here, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they did, and that puts them in the playoff. Again, you win the ACC, you're in. You're in the top four seeds. So I think Clemson could easily do that. Number four, and this really isn't a surprise, but they're hanging kind of low at this point, is Penn State. This team, I think, could be the best team in the Big Ten, in my opinion. We'll find out. But right now, Penn State looks to me solid for the college football playoff. So that's our four teams that are rising. So let's jump in here now to my picks of the week, my fearless prediction. So last week I went 4 wins, 3 losses. So for the season, I'm +2. I'm won 2 more games than I've lost. So if you're one of these betting people out there, with me, you'd won a little bit of money, but you wouldn't have lost. So Anyway, let's go to my seven fearless picks here. And let's start with Michigan, which is at Washington. Michigan, I believe, if I'm reading this right here, Michigan is a 2.5 point favorite at Washington. I like Washington. Michigan can run the ball. They can't do much else. They're so one dimensional to me. They're going on the road out to the West Coast. Washington's nothing great. But you know what? I'm going to take Washington here. I think they're going to do it. I think they'll win the game. Next up is the Iowa Hawkeyes, my my alma mater. The Iowa Hawkeyes getting 19.5 points at Ohio State. This spread once was 23.5, so it's really come down. So that tells you a lot of the action is on Iowa to cover or to make beat the spread. So it's come down to 19.5. I still think it's high. Now, Iowa has only beaten Ohio State, I think, 13 times or 14 times. They've played 60 sometimes, and they rarely win at Ohio State. But that doesn't mean anything. That now Iowa, they just need to feed. Okay, first you feed Caleb Johnson, who's just awesome in the running game for Iowa. But I think Ohio State's going to do the smart thing, load the box and stop him. They're going to dare Iowa to throw the ball to make this game close. I was going to have to, I believe, put the ball in the air to have a chance to actually win this game. Maybe a trick play, like a fake punt. I love fake field goals. So one of my favorite plays in football. I think Iowa needs to throw one of those in. Kirk Ferentz, their coach, in his latter years here, has become so conservative. So they're going to have to open it up because Ohio State's going to key on Johnson. So bottom line, what am I going to do? I'm going to take Iowa. I'm going to take the 19.5 points. That's just too many points with Iowa's defense and with Caleb Johnson back there providing them with an offense they haven't had in a long time. So I like Iowa plus the 19.5. I think there's an 85% chance Ohio State just wins the game, but I think Iowa has about a 15% chance to get out of Columbus with a W. It's not a high chance, but it's there. So next, Tennessee at Arkansas. Tennessee is a 13.5 point favorite. I think Arkansas is a little more dangerous than a lot of people do. They covered the spread last week against Texas A&M. They lost, but they beat the spread. I'm going to say the Hogs are going to do that again at home. Tennessee has looked flawless, but I think they may have a letdown here, thinking that Arkansas will be an easy win for them. I don't think it will. I think Tennessee will win the game, but I don't think they'll win by more than I don't think they'll win by 14 or more. So I'm taking Arkansas and the points, 13 and a half. Next game is Missouri at Texas A&M. I saw Texas A&M live last week, and I like this team. They lost, of course, to Notre Dame by very close game. That's really not anything to be ashamed of at all. Texas A&M is a great defensive line. I like A&M. They're a 2.5 point underdog, and they're at home. Kyle Field is always worth 7 points. I'm taking Texas A&M, and I'm giving away the 2.5. And Missouri, as you know, is ranked. I don't know what are they in the AP, like ninth or something. So Missouri's good team. This is actually really a marquee game on Saturday. Next, we have West Virginia going into Stillwater, Oklahoma State, to a very, for lack of a better word, pissed off Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is a good team and had a couple losses here that have been pretty disappointing for them. I think that's really bad news for West Virginia. West Virginia is only getting 3 points. I think Oklahoma State will win in a rout, actually. So I'm taking Oklahoma State, throwing away the 3 points to West Virginia. Next, we have Rutgers getting 7 points at Nebraska. I see this one very much the same, too. I think Nebraska's looking to get a Big Ten blowout win at home. And Rutgers, is not a bad team, but I like Nebraska again to win easily. And so I'm taking Nebraska, throwing away the 7 to Rutgers. Last but not least, we have Alabama, a 23-point favorite at Vanderbilt. And I think a lot of people think with this spread that Alabama's going to have a letdown after that incredible game last Saturday, which, by the way, I don't know if I said this, but I'll add it now. I think was maybe one of the best September games I have seen in college football in years. Uh, So Alabama, you might think might be down a bit, but I don't think so. I like their coach. I think he'll have them ready. 23 points. That I'll take it. So I'm taking Alabama, giving the 23 to Vanderbilt. Their home field doesn't mean anything. So Alabama and give away the 23. So that is our edition for this week. Please feel free to comment, to like, and of course, always subscribe. Love that if you want to do that. So thank you, everybody, and have a great Saturday watching college football in October.